Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome this Tuesday afternoon to my live show. If you're here watching us live, I welcome you. You have come to my show, which is Balanced Life with me, your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle. This is Conversations that Connect to a Healthier You. I got a conversation that's going to connect you today, literally connect you to a healthier you today. Stick around. You're going to want to be part of this conversation, I think. And if you do want to call in because you have a question or you want to make a comment and you want to get involved in it, that's why I do a live show, to get you involved as well. All you have to do is take this number down. If you're not driving, it's area code 323-524-2599. Again, 323-524-2599. Give us a call. We'd love to get you in on our conversation today, and I'm sure this is going to be intriguing for you, so stick around. And before we get started, I also want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and a health and nutrition coach. So what do? I help people get everything kind of in alignment with their food, with their lifestyle choices that they make in their community, with their careers, with their finances, with their creativity, their environment. There's a lot of questions I find with my clients that people ask me, what should I be eating? What shouldn't I be eating? What products should I use on my body? Environmentally, what should I be aware of? What should I be paying attention to? How can I make it better? I don't like my job. How should I start? Where do I start to find the career where I belong? So that's what health coaching is all about. At least that's my method, is helping you get things sorted out so we find a balance where you can find joy, longevity with quality. Because who doesn't want that? When we're in our joyous state, that's when we know we can live a long, healthy, joyous life. And believe me, I'm here to tell you that bad habits or habits that you know that are not helping you progress or get to where your passion is, those can be changed. Small little changes small little things that we do over a period of time become permanent change. So it's never too late. I've always say that. It's never too late. So to get a hold of me, you'll want to go to my website, and it's Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI.com. And there you're going to see, have a consultation with me. Just click on that. It's going to ask you a few questions. It's going to have you sign up for a time, and I give a free consultation, 30 minutes that you can have where somebody can actually listen to what you're going through, what your needs are, and what you haven't been able to quite be successful with on your own. Because let's face it, everybody needs a coach, even the GOATs of the world, Tom Brady, you name it. They all have coaches. They all have people helping them. Every actor that you see has a coach that we love, has a coach for many different parts of what they're doing on that screen. So I would love to help you on your health journey to give you that longevity with quality. So don't even think twice. Just go ahead and reach out and we'll have that conversation together. All right, we're going to get on with the show today. Again, I want you to become a part of it. You can always go to my YouTube channel if you're watching there. You can make a comment if you don't want to call in, and we'll get back to you after the show. Or if you're on my Facebook page, the same thing. If you're watching the show after the fact or listening to the show on another platform, you can still make a comment, ask a question, and we'll get you involved in the conversation post-show. Okay, so getting on with the introductions, here we go. Did you know that stress is the root cause of anxiety, depression, PTSD, and many stress overload epidemics? How would you like to turn that stress into joy? Well, the future of emotional health is not more drugs and more therapists, but people choosing to rewire their own brain, changing their circuits to change their life. Emotional brain training is a new paradigm in healthcare, giving you the power to control your emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors, biochemistry, and health that is drug-free, low-cost, and life-changing. Dr. Laurel Mellin is a health psychologist, nutritionist, and founder of Emotional Brain Training, which she developed over 40 years ago as a professor of medicine at the University of California School of Medicine. She is a New York Times best-selling author and trains health professionals in EBT. Her work has received awards from the American Medical Association and the U.S. Department of Consumer Affairs. Her most recent book is on EBT as an alternative to weight loss drugs. 1, 2, 3, joy. So let's find our joy today. Will you please welcome my guest, Dr. Laurel Mellin, to the show. Laurel Mellin. Hi, Dr. Mellin. How are you?
Hi.
There's the applause.
A lot of joy in this room.
I know.
Lot of joy.
We have an audience that surrounds us. They live in the walls. They come here and they clap for us and they cheer us on. All my guests get the benefits of this beautiful audience. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you. I know you're busy. I know you've got a lot going on, and I am so intrigued. We're going to talk today about changing your circuits to change your life, EBT, emotional brain training. And we're going to get all into that, what it is. We talked a little bit about why it is, but we're going to get into all the details of how you can help people with it. But I want to know a little bit more personal stuff about you. Really your origin story, where you're from, where you're born, what your education was like, and how you kind of got into all of this.
Wow, that's a long story. You know, I as you mentioned, I've been on the faculty at the University of California over 40 years developing EBT with the latest science just coming out. But it all started as a little girl who wanted to have 4 children. That's all I wanted. And I'm 75 right now. And I was born in the time when, you know, that's what people did. There wasn't daycare. There wasn't a lot of things. And I raced through undergraduate at Berkeley in 3 years because my childhood sweetheart, my boyfriend, and I wanted to get married, and he was going to finish graduate school. So I wanted to rush through and ended up having a baby, and the baby passed away. And not only did the baby pass away, but I got some serious surgery, et cetera, and was told I would never have children. And so at that point, I had to make some changes in my life. And I went back to school. I became a nutritionist before I became a health psychologist. And I got really lucky. I got a position at the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine in adolescent medicine. And I had been studying obesity. I had my own problem with binge eating and body disparagement and obsessing about my weight and everything. And I was really interested from a nutritional standpoint in how to deal with overeating and overweight. And I got this wonderful job where I learned how to it was essentially a job as training people to be leaders in adolescent health. Well, adolescent health is like careening out of control. You have to learn psychology and family systems theory and every single different kind of interdisciplinary health. And that's what I did. And they didn't know really what to do with me. I was required for the grant to have somebody in nutrition. So I got to do whatever I wanted to do. And what I started doing is studying pediatric obesity and trying to find the root cause. I knew that knowing what to eat and using cognitive behavioral methods was not enough. And I was really frustrated because I wanted to solve my own problem with eating and weight. So I went back in the literature, always go to the science, I go to the science. And back in 1940, this little tiny woman named Hilda Brooke, who was like 90 pounds sopping wet, a psychiatrist at Baylor College of Medicine, did this amazing study that showed that what was going on with kids is they weren't emotionally connected. So they weren't getting that connection, that nurturing and that safe environment from their caretakers or their parents. And what happens biochemically is they have a drive to overeat. So I was like 28 at the time, and I said, well, that's no problem, because when you're that age, you think you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'll just teach skills in emotional connection tools in the clinic there. And of course, we're a scientific organization, so we have to study everything, or we need to study everything. So I developed these little tools that are still part of EBT, very buried in there, but they're there. And all of a sudden, these programs that we had, the kids were connecting, and this mother came up to me in the hallway and said, what have you done to my daughter? She used to be stealing food from my money from my purse to go buy food. And she was, eating like crazy. And now she's just in joy. She doesn't even care about the extra food. What have these skills done? And of course, at that moment, I thought, and the woman said, kind of like when Sally met Harry, she says, and I want whatever you gave her.
Yeah.
I want, because I have my own problems. So the rest is history. It took 30 years to get this, to figure out what was going on in the brain that made this happen, and to make it in an app and make it available for all. So I just stayed on that. I knew that I would be a bad person if I hadn't stayed with it, because I knew that I was suffering. I knew that the little girl was suffering and the mother was suffering, and this had taken it away. So that's been my mission, is to bring EBT, to really understand the science, make it really fun and easy, and bring it to all people.
Wow, that's quite a story, Laurel. That's
yeah. Well, I went on to have 3 children who are now grown. I went on to go through some challenges with divorce, etc. And I'm now deliriously happily married with 3 grown children, and feeling grateful to have been able to follow my dream all these years.
Good. Wow. That's why I ask for those origin stories, because now I know why you're doing what you're doing, and so does our audience, and it connects, as you know, what we're talking about, it just connects everybody together, because stories, everybody has one, and we can relate to why they're doing what they're doing, or what path they took. And, there's always bumps along the way, but that's pretty incredible. And now what you're doing for others. So let's get into what EBT is. Basically, it's emotional brain training. What does that mean exactly? I know there's a lot. That's a convoluted question, but what is it?
Well, it's a whole new paradigm in healthcare. I don't want to soft soap this, because with my colleagues at UCSF, Igor Mitrovic, who's a neurophysiologist, Mike Merzenek, who discovered neuroplasticity, and others, we've developed this over time. And what it is that we've all known in the healthcare field that the controller of our lives is not our neocortex, not our thinking brain. We can know what to do and we can't do it. We can tell ourselves to track our behavior, but it's so hard because there's something going on there in the emotional brain that's blocking it. So we've known scientifically that the emotional brain circuitry, the circuits in other words, the maps or the patterns or the instructions that are encoded in our amygdala, in our emotional brain, that tell the whole story of our lives, are activated without our conscious awareness. And when they're activated, they control our emotions, thoughts, behaviors, entire biochemistry. That means the chemicals in every cell of your body are controlled by these circuits. And rightly so, no one's really approached the emotional brain in an organized, practical way, because the emotional brain essentially only hears emotions. If you can talk to it all night, you can accept it all night, you can pummel it with positive thoughts, doesn't matter when we're in the level of stress we're all in today. So what EBT does is say, start fresh. And what you're going to do is you're going to first honor that on the day you were born, you had this beautiful genetic code. And in our genetic code is an ability to move through stress, if we use the emotional pathways in our brain, back to joy. So our natural state is not to come up against a wall and be stressed out all the time and then analyze, why am I anxious? What's wrong with me? What are my issues or problems? Our brain asks us to surrender to use the thinking brain, our consciousness, to go to our body where we experience our emotional brain and check out whether we're in joy or not. Joy is not happy, happy, happy. I'm in joy right now, and I'm trying to concentrate. But the issue is you're in that connected flow state where you're using your resources to do the best that you can of higher purpose. If you're not in joy, do not ask yourself why. Why is a 4-letter word. It's a waste of your time. If you ask why and you're in stress, all your mind will do is take you on a little trip through rumination or overanalyzing or sitting there worried about it. Instead, you say, what is my number? Okay?
What is my number? Okay.
Their number is, there's only 5 numbers. There's 1 when you're in flow state or joy, and the thinking brain's in charge, and all those good memories are coming up. 2, about here, and your brain's in charge, and you're connected, but you're not in that glow state. And then it gets into the troubled zone with stress overload. 3, your little stress, a whole different kind of circuit gets in there. And then very stressed and stress overload. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you reach for your app. And these are emotional pathways, and you use the tool for that pathway. And in 1, 2, or 3 minutes, you will be back to joy. Your biochemistry will change. You'll be in glow state. And essentially, that's EBT. It's spiraling up. There's only one part of it. Once you learn how to spiral up, the very same tools will enable you to rewire any circuit that gets you stuck, overloaded, overwhelmed. And so then what you do is you notice what number you're in. And you say, well, I get into this anxiety pattern, or I get into overeating pattern, or I get into, merging with people and trying to fix them or solve their problems, or distancing, or I get into perfectionism, or whatever bothers you, no matter what it is. I mean, literally, no matter what it is, you put it through that same process, that same emotional process, except with much more intensity and vigor and joy. And you rewire the circuit so it's not there anymore.
So we're basically talking about what I was saying at the top of the show, that you can rewire your brain just the way, and that's what really changing a habit is rewiring what we get used to that becomes just kind of a rote thing that we do in our lives that may not be benefiting us in the long run. You're saying we can actually do this with your brain and be able to reset, rewire, and get back to the joy state and not let ourselves go down that rabbit hole of stress and anxiety and or whatever it is that is gnawing at us. That's really, I don't see why everybody wouldn't want to do that. I as you're talking, and I noticed this when, all the research I was doing about what you do is in the last couple of weeks, I want to say 3 weeks, my oldest daughter, I have 2 grown daughters, a granddaughter, a son-in-law. My oldest daughter, for the first time in her life, is going through panic attacks. So she's at a really intense level, I would assume, that something's triggering her. Something emotionally is triggering her. And then what happens is she gets into this stress state that then gives her sort of PTSD that, oh no, it's happening again. I'm going to go here. And she had to be taken away. Believe it or not, she's a yoga teacher. And she was just about to teach a class and had an attack at the front desk right before she went in the room to teach the class. And I got called and came to her. I mean, she was as white as a ghost. She had literally experienced a panic attack. I know that. And she has no idea where it came from. It came out of the blue. It triggered her. And now, 2 weeks later, she's still dealing with it. So I'm thinking, wow, what a tool that could... If she needs something, I mean, right away, we've taken her to the doctor. Right away, we took her to a doctor to check her vitals. And they were all pretty normal. And it's hot yoga, so she was a little dehydrated, but she didn't even teach yet. So she now doesn't have a way to work herself out of it. And I I know that I think she has adrenal fatigue. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But your adrenals, your cortisol levels change. I know this is all related to cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So I don't know. This is just all putting me, just by talking to you and you going through the whole level of it, says to me that this could really help her.
It could help her tremendously, but this is as her mother, because I know I have children. The first thing you think about is, how can I help them? Not only immediately, and the most wonderful thing you can do is emotionally connect with her and listen to her, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is what I did immediately.
It was exactly what you did, exactly. But then to reframe it, and I can tell you how I would reframe it to my daughter. And that is, I would say the problem here is stress. Everyone has the problem because there's so much stress now that we used to be able to just check our feelings or our thoughts. And now we're in the reptilian brain and it plays by different rules. So you need to do 3 things, I would say to her. First, have unconditional love for yourself. This is really hard and everyone is stressed and everyone's moving to a new model where you have to rewire the emotional brain and get the tools for that. But you're going to start right now and you're going to be very gentle with yourself. Now, what you would do is say, I just want you to spiral up. In other words, use the app to get out of that stress state. Just takes a minute, just 5 times a day. And also, she needs to be in connection with other people, listening to them spiral up as well. So there's always a group. Every single day of the year at EBT, there is a complimentary group where you just come in and a health professional will show you how to get started using this program. So she first wants to get her brain used to the fact that she can create joy anytime, anywhere, which is a new idea. And she does that for about a month. Some people only 2 weeks. And then she notices that she's feeling a lot better. But she also knows that she has some circuits there. So after people do about a month of just spiraling up, they go into a group where they have the same people every week with a certified EBT provider, and they get support between sessions from those people, and they rewire the big 4 circuits. She thinks she has a panic attack circuit, which she does, but no one just has one circuit. What they have is most people have a mood circuit, like a panic attack or anxiety or depression. We rewire that. Most people have a habit like food. Most people have a relationship circuit that causes them stress, and either a body circuit if they have overweight or a work circuit if they just have stress. So the reason this is so important is these circuits are survival circuits. Mm-hmm. Boom, they go like that. Boom, they go like that. And so they keep the habit of the brain to be at brain state 4 or 5. What you want to do is lift the habit of the brain to be at 1. So by rewiring 4 problems that are bothering her, the mood, something else, 4 other problems, it takes the circuits that are keeping her down here and it transforms them to healing circuits that actually give her positive chemicals. So harmful chemicals go to positive chemicals, and her set point is up here now. And then she finishes it off by rewiring her brain for higher purpose. You learn how to rewire your brain for sanctuary and freedom, and you really get to the point that it's all automatic. Mm-hmm. You don't need the app anymore. And what happens is your brain just, when stuff comes into your brain from the world, most of the time it goes right on those resiliency pathways. And you think, why is everybody so upset? Well, they're upset because they have wires in their brain and you've cleared out those wires. So that's the idea. This is your time to reframe it as how stressful life is, and for her to raise her set points so she's wired for joy rather than wired for stress. And that will be lasting.
Wow. Okay. Well, good. I'm so glad that I could use her as an example, and you can make sense of it for me, through what she's going through. That would be great. That would be great. I'll talk to you further about getting her involved in that. We're going to take a really quick break from a sponsor, and we'll come right back because there's so much more to talk about with your book, and you've got a new book coming out. We haven't even mentioned that yet, so I want to get into all of that. And can you believe we're halfway through already? So we'll be right back after a word from one of my sponsors. Cicera Oleo de Oliva is an extra virgin olive oil company with a mission to provide high-quality, current-season Italian oils to families. They have partnered with 2 centuries-old family farms in the Tuscany region of Italy to grow, harvest, and bottle their amazing oils. Founded by a nutritionist who has a love of the land, sustainability, nutritious foods, and of course, Italy, they strive for peak freshness and high nutritional content in every single bottle. All of their oils are current season, extra virgin olive oil, bringing you a true branch to bottle experience, and I know firsthand. So, for an offer, go to www.cesirolioliva.com and enter Balanced Life 10 for 10% off. I know you're going to love this healthy and delicious addition to just about any meal. We're back. And I was just going to say, we're back with my guest, Dr. Laurel Mellin, and she is developed EBT. We're talking all about emotional brain training and how we can deactivate deactivating the amygdala is the new psychotherapy. I want to ask you about that. But I realized that I was just doing an olive oil promotion, and at Olive Oil recently there was a new article that just came out about how it's like the number one food we should all be using, the number one food to keep ourselves out of we know the components of the Mediterranean diet and the blue zones and all of that, and how we can have longevity with quality, live a long, healthy life. But that olive oil plays a huge part in warding off any kind of dementia. So, which is, of course, directly connected to losing control of our thoughts and our brain. So, anyway, I just realized that has to do with all of that. I'm so happy to have you and making sense of what EBT is. Can we talk about when you say deactivating the amygdala is the new psychotherapy? What do you mean by that? How does that work out?
I am a health psychologist. I'm not a clinical psychologist, and my effort has been to make people healthy, not to see what their problems are. I chose not to go into the clinical, even though I have lots of friends who are doing that, because what I believe is the healthiest thing is to see the goodness in people, the inherent strength, goodness, and wisdom, and then give people the skills to get in that state more of the time. So what I mean by that is right now, in order to get into that great state, now this is really important. In order to get in that great state, it's not about thoughts, emotions, or behaviors. It's about biochemistry. What causes people to overeat is stress-induced biochemical changes. What causes people to be anxious or depressed are these biochemical changes. So here's how it goes. The circuits in the brain activate biochemistry, and the biochemistry controls our emotions, thoughts, behaviors, and problems. Currently, traditional psychotherapy is not brain-based, in that the brain, number one thing in the brain, the central nervous system, is one thing: the stress response. If the stress response from early trauma, later episodes, or just life the way it is, if the stress response, if that buzzer is stuck on, that means the amygdala is sensitized and it just going berserk all the time. Maybe we go numb, maybe we go to a false high, maybe we get busy, or feel really low. The problem is that the circuits in the amygdala are keeping the stress buzzer stuck on. Therefore, if you use EBT, you can bolt it on to your current psychotherapy so it can go, or coaching so it can go that much faster. If those biochemicals are driving problems, you're going uphill. It takes forever to change your thoughts or issues or problems. So what we know is, because psychotherapy currently is not physiologically based, if we deal with physiology and get that stress buzzer and those circuits that are causing it to be stuck on turned off, all of a sudden, people get healthier and are happier much more naturally. So also, the other part of this is that with EBT, we go with the brain, and the brain says our natural state is joy. So every time you use an EBT, one of these spiral up tools on the app, you don't get to a calm state. You get to a joyous state. And the neuroscientists who study emotion, like Antonio Damasio, his book, Looking for Spinoza, great read, or Peter Sterling, What is Health? All these scientists, they say one thing. You have to get beyond calm or relax, and you need to get to that joy state, because that joy state of purpose is what we need in this world. We need people who know how to get to joy so that they can care about the future, care about other people, bring out their best selves. So what happens is, if you just forget psychotherapy the way it is now and say, really what I have is my amygdala is activated and I've got 8 major stress chemicals making me overeat, get depressed, get anxious. I got to turn off that spigot. And that's number one. And I may, as I use EBT, my problems may go away because they're chemically induced. Or you may just make it as your foundation, and then you use your psychotherapist, you use your coach, you use, your medications, sure, but get a foundation in your health by changing your stress chemicals, and everything else will go better.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense that it can. Are you teaching people how to tap into their joy hormones,
So that's a good idea, because you say teach them how to do that. It's actually much, much easier than that. If you try to be happy, you're using your thinking brain.
Right.
And the thinking brain is just not going to be able to go up against all those stress chemicals. So all we're doing is saying, bloom where you're planted. Come in, and for the first month, just spiral up and find out how joyful you can feel. And notice it happens naturally. Your natural state is joy. And then go after 4 of these big circuits, and then raise your set point, and your life will change. But the interesting part, this is another, first of all, this is a new paradigm. So when you come in, you binge watch the videos. You drop into the spiral up sessions where you just drop in for half an hour and listen to it and feel what's going on here. But essentially, you learn that the current psychotherapy is a whole different model. And so you're going to have to relearn that. Let me give you an example, because for me, as the founder of EBT, I live at 24, my poor husband, he's got to listen to this all the time too. Yeah. The thing is, it's a whole different world when you just try to make psychotherapy, which EBT is a neuroscientific psychotherapy based on how the brain actually works. Number one, anger is your friend. If you don't have a very good anger procedure that takes about 15, 20 seconds, when you have stress, you'll be depressed, anxious, ashamed, numb, or high.
Oh, interesting.
That one skill of starting off when you say, this is what's bothering me, and then you express this anger in a very specific way. What happens is it activates a circuit in your brain that is causing you to feel that way. If you have an fMRI, you could not find the exact circuit that was causing it. But with EBT, your brain naturally will find the circuit and unlock it so you can change it. All you have to do is complain. So the first thing is, my mother told me never to complain. The first thing is you need to complain for about 5 sentences. And then you need to decide that you're going to really activate the circuit that is the problem with a brief burst of effective, productive, safe anger, a certain way. And it activates the circuit and then dispels all of the stress. And at that point, if you had not been using EBT, you would be depressed. But because you've released the chemicals, the stress chemicals, you feel one tender, sweet sadness, one balanced fear of what could really go on. And then all of a sudden, this big pool of power comes up. You say, hey, of course I would do that because I have some power here. Why don't I and you just say in your mind what you think you should do. At that moment, the very circuit that is causing you to do the same thing over and over again, overeating, overanalyzing, work stalls, depression, whatever that is, it opens up, and the message from your unconscious mind floats up to your conscious mind, and the exact words that unconscious circuit is telling you becomes apparent. Once you have those golden words, you can use EBT to essentially confront it with the opposite and rewire the circuit. If you use cognitive methods, You stay up here in your head, and the circuit itself that's causing the problem never gets activated. Unless you activate the circuit, it will not change. There's studies at New York University that showed that if you stress activate the circuit, unlock it, and then change it, the changes last 1 year. Okay, they only test it. And if you don't, they boom back. So then you feel like, oh, I'm back to my own problems. Why? Because I didn't identify the circuit as the problem, activate it, and wipe it out, crush it, get rid of it.
So basically, not to fester, not to let it to fester. I think that going back, I can only use my daughter as an example on this one, but she experienced exactly 1 year ago, exactly almost to the day that she had the panic attack. She experienced kind of a later miscarriage, and I don't think she dealt with it right. So she put it away. And I think over the year has other friends that were pregnant at the same time as her, as other people got pregnant a little bit later than her, and now the babies are here, and they have these happy, healthy families that she never dealt. She put it away. And I think that's just, along with other things that added up, like, usually there's more than just one thing. But because she, I've never seen her like this, and, who knows how she perceived her childhood, but I would assume as her mother that it was very loving and nurturing, and I didn't see a lot of issues as a young girl, a teenager, or an adult. But this is the first thing that came to mind to me when I heard that this was going on, is that I don't think she ever dealt with grief over this. And then on top of that, their dog of several years passed away like 2 weeks later. So it all was happening. It was all going on, everything that they planned. They knew the sex of the child. It just was too much for her. And she thought, I can't, I have to put it over here. I have a 2-year-old that I have to be around. I have a job. She had a lot of commitments. So as you were saying that, she never let it go, never dealt with it. And now it's come to a head. Do you think that's what's going on?
Sorry, the emotional brain is very sensitive to anniversaries. And also, I remember as a young faculty member at UCSF, I was a nutritionist. Again, I hadn't gone back to get my doctorate yet. And this social worker said to me, she says, once you have a feeling, once there is a stressor and you suppress the emotion, it always goes underground. It never goes away. It just goes into symptoms and overreactions until you rewire it. And at the time, when I was this young woman, we didn't have a way of taking what's called the allostatic emotions, the stuck emotions. It doesn't matter whether it's anxiety, depression, hostility, numbness, or whatever, and fanning out those feelings like I showed you and clearing it. So there wasn't any real way to do it except go to a therapist and have someone listen to you for 10 or 15 years. There wasn't an organized way that anyone could use for self-care to take care of that. We believe that being listened to is very important. But right now, just think how many trauma circuits there are in the United States in people's brains.
Oh, yeah.
There are trillions of them. And if you use one-on-one psychotherapy to have someone listen to you express your emotions about any one trauma, let alone all the trauma that we have, it's not going to happen. And so the way it's going to happen is modernize mental health care. It's about a circuit. People are smart. People care about their own mental health. And they can actually clear these circuits with other people in small groups listening to each other to give that warmth and that connection. But it's now really, when I was young, people didn't floss their teeth. They didn't have all this stuff that you do now. And everybody, they floss their teeth. They do all of this cleanup around their oral health. This is mental health. The cleanup that you do is when something happens, you say, it's just a circuit. I need to be in loving connection, but I need to process those suppressed emotions, or they'll come back to me, and they'll not go away until they get my attention. One more thing I want to tell you, Debbie. Please tell your daughter that what this incident that happened to her is the best thing that could happen, and it will continue to happen because of the genetics. What I mean by that is our brain is set up to heal. It wants us to heal our hurts and to be in that loving state of connection. So if we suppress our emotions, what happens? They go underground and we get busy, we do a million things to keep ourselves distracted, but they're there and they're rumbling around. And so what happens is, and then they go boom, and there's some symptom. And if we don't then say, oh, it's a circuit, I need to process those emotions, but get busy again, they go underground, but they get stronger and stronger and stronger. So she's a young woman. She has her whole life ahead of her. She needs to just start the practice, just like with her oral health, with her mental health, she needs EBT to clear out that clutter. We call it emotional clutter. So she has more freedom.
I get that 100%. I get that. Yeah, I'm going to be on all over it because as her mother, I want to make everything better for her. And, as you know, and this, the reason for this is then it manifests itself into physical symptoms. And, and that's where disease and compromising your long-term health comes in, because your stress is the cause of so many diseases and cancers and, just everything. That this is not a path I want her to continue on. I want her to nip it in the bud. So I thank you.
Set her sight not on stress relief, but on being wired for joy and all the higher order rewards, because she'll be able to, the 2-year-old, she'll be able to wire that child for joy just by her presence. So say to her, everyone has stress. We're going to use this to get you wired for joy. And I'm going to do it too. And many families, there'll be 5 or 10 people in the family all doing it because the joy is contagious. And as we all know, I've been through divorce myself,
Me
that
too.
I do know that the family challenges that come up can cause a lot of suffering for children as well as for adults. And this is a family affair as well. I married my husband. I met him 11 years ago, just a fluke. I thought, I'm working so much. I've just got to get out there and try. I went on Match.com and I said, every Tuesday night, I'm going to have a date, whether I have to, solicit it, please date me this night. I go out every Tuesday night. And the 4th one, I met Walt and we were just we just knew we'd spend our life together. But right away, we started an EBT practice. There's no way we would be, with all the stress that we've had, he has in his work and I have in my work and all this, if we didn't have EBT. So what I want to say also, if you're in a relationship, the only state is 1. The brain state 1 is the only one that's actually intimate. Intimacy is the hardest thing that we do. And it's most stress sensitive, whether it's sexual connection, loving companionship, whatever that is. And so what I mean by that is, if you're in a relationship, get EBT for both of you, because what happens is once you have that language, like this morning, I said to him, I'm at brain state 5, so I really can't talk right now. So you just say, I'm at number 5. I don't want to talk about my feelings. So I just say, I'm at 5. He says, well, I'm running at 2. Okay, he just gets it. So we don't have to have a long conversation. When your spouse comes home from work and they want to complain and they're miserable and you don't really, you say, instead of you telling me how bad your boss is for the next half hour, why don't you just spiral up and I'll listen to you and be a loving presence. And in 5 minutes, the person will be back to joy. It's just practical.
So when you say spiral up, this is what the app allows you to do. How does that work?
What you do is you just essentially keep it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you learn how that when you're not at 1, you process the emotions. The most typical one is to complain and say, it's brain state 4, say, this is really bothering me right now. I feel angry, sad, afraid, guilty. And then what happens at that point, the allostatic emotion, the anger, the hostility, the numbness, the depression, the anxiety, the feeling on edge, the shame dissipates. But you're not done, because the brain does not reward you for just feeling okay. It wants you to get to joy. And that's what shuts off what's called the HPA axis, the joy. Mm-hmm. So you continue and you say, but I feel grateful about this, happy, secure, or proud. And one way or the other, you get to that joy state. That's why it takes 3 minutes flat and you change your chemicals. The power of joy biochemically is overwhelming. And so that's what you do. And when you come in, you just watch these videos and you learn how to do it.
So when you say come in, you don't mean physically. You can do this all online or
All of this is online.
online. Okay.
In 2012, my son, who's a tech designer, now works for Microsoft, he came in and says, Mom, EBT should be worldwide. And so I'm going to make a portal for you so that anyone can come from any country or any area of the country and be able to get these skills and just, watch the videos, drop in by telephone and get support. It's a hub for emotional connectivity and raising the set point, which is what our nation needs most right now.
Well, that's very incredible that you're offering that to people, that they can actually create lasting joy through knowing how to use this. So let's use the time we have left to talk about how people can do that, how they can get a hold of you, how they can become part of the program. When you say that you go in, so you're in a group, a team of people that you work with, or
we just fashion it over what people have told us over the years they want. First thing that what they want to do is they come to ebt.org and they get a membership, and instantly they get the app and they get invited to a daily drop-in on their app for half an hour to listen to other people. And every Tuesday and Wednesday night, you can come on Zoom and ask questions of me and different topics. So it's all very people oriented because the emotional brain is the social brain. You can't go in a closet and get the skills at the same depth. When someone listens to you go through these emotions for 5 minutes, both people end up getting their brains changed and both people end up in joy. So you just start by dropping into some of these Spiral Up groups, and there's some videos. And then once you decide, I want to use this for my medical care, because this is what physicians deal with, this was developed at the School of Medicine at UCSF. All these problems that we're dealing with are just symptoms of not having the skills to shut off the stress response in the amygdala. You get into a group, it's a telephone group, completely private, nobody knows. My husband, when I met him, I said, I work on EBT 7 days a week. I think you should get into EBT or it's going to be really hard for us to talk. So he goes into a telephone group. Again, nobody knows who he is. It's just first names. Every week they meet, and then on their app, they can make connections with each other for 5 minutes to spiral up. And he says, well, I love the group, but I don't know if I want to make these connections with people. What happens is, if you were in a 12-step program or a therapy group, it is really, it's different because people aren't in joy and people don't know what to do to get to feel better right away. But at EBT, you're all trained. So you get on the phone and people go through what's bothering them. 5 minutes later, both people are in joy. And he ended up finding that to be the greatest support because we are lonely, or we're in environments where we don't necessarily trust our friends will keep the peace or not judge us. This is an environment where you can say anything. And as you do, what happens is both people get back to joy, because even though we're very different in our thinking brain, we all think about different things. In our emotional brain, it doesn't matter whether we're 6 or 106 or from any walk of life, the pathways are the same. So the app is very simple and it works for all people.
So it's just as simple as going to ebt.org, becoming a member, and then you get guided along the way.
Because we just received a donation from a grateful patient who gave us $500,000 and said they changed their marriage and they changed their life and they changed their weight based on EBT, and they wanted everyone to have it. That it's only $1 for the first month to have the entire program plus daily professional support. So that's what we want. We want you to jump in and say, I need something better. I need to be wired for joy. And I'm going to begin to experiment with whether I could actually feel that joy and do it not by chance because my life was going well, but because I had the skill in my brain to do it.
Lovely. I love it. And you have a new book coming out. Tell us about the book.
Several books. The book that's out now is because right now people are spending a lot of money on weight loss drugs, and it's very sad. And of course, if you want the drugs, go ahead and do that. But let me tell you the truth. The truth is that the reason we are overweight and overeating is because the stress response is activated. And humans, the first thing people do when they're stressed is they activate the chemicals that make us overeat, gain weight. So just to be sensible about it, the first thing you do if you're overeating is don't try to change your behavior. That is punitive, because why change your behavior when the stress chemicals, and there are 8 of them that are fueling overeating? First, turn off the stress chemicals and then find that you're eating healthier naturally. Again, the drugs that are out there give you one chemical, GLP-1, but there are 8 chemicals, and that includes cortisol, dopamine, insulin, GLP-1, PYY, ghrelin, leptin, serotonin. All of these chemicals make us overeat and fat. When you switch off the stress response, they all begin to normalize. And your brain gives you those chemicals naturally, the full spate of them, not just one. So I really want people to get in and stop dieting. We know that reasons diets haven't worked is because we are biochemically driven to go off those diets, or have them take too much effort when we do it. So don't diet. And you don't necessarily need to take those weight loss drugs. Instead, turn off the stress response. The book is 1, 2, 3, Joy. And it's about easy, natural weight loss that is scientific proven. And it's really fun because you get to joy. The new book is coming out this fall, and it's called 3 Minutes Flat. Change your circuits to change your life. But you can get the content of 3 Minutes Flat on EBT.org right now, including the app.
Fabulous. That is so wonderful. Well, I hope everybody reaches out, because this is a game changer in terms of, well, if you ask me, this creates longevity. And that's what I'm all about is, aging young, longevity with quality, having a high quality of life. And who doesn't want to live in a state of joy? I mean, I know I can't imagine all the chemicals that are firing off when I'm around my granddaughter, because she's my addiction. She's my joy. And if I always think when I'm with her, if everybody could feel the way I feel right now, we'd have a really, we'd have no wars. We'd have a lot of peace in the world. So you are giving people the skill set, the tools to be able to live in a joy state. There's nothing better than that. And I can't thank you enough for sharing that with us today. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Debbie. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, thank you. I just try to create a platform for people like you to come and share the great things that you are doing. And I want to thank you, too, the audience today, for joining us. Now, if you have a question, a comment, if you want to hear more, I will reach out to Dr. Mellin at any point that you're watching the show with your question or comment, and have her get back to you. Please do so. Please go into the comment section. Please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. There's so many great leaders there like Dr. Mellin that are helping people really live a life of longevity with quality, and I hope that you can join us there. And in the meantime, I want you to keep going out and finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you. All right, everybody, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.